Hey everybody, my name's Keith and today I'm going to be upgrading this Squier Affinity Telecaster. For the past year or so, I've been dealing with the fact that I might not be a Tele kind of guy. So I thought it might be interesting to go through some of the biases I've had about Telecasters and what led me to get this one. First of all, I tend to find Telecasters really uncomfortable to play. I mean, look at it, it's just a big slab of wood. There's no contouring, there's no ergonomics, this is just what you get. Another problem I've had with Telecasters is they can be so bright. The neck pickup is a thing of beauty, but switching over to the bridge, it's so bright I can't even use it. Which brings me to another beef. I hate twang. I know it's one of the defining characteristics of the Telecaster, but I just can't stand it. I used to have a classic Vibe Telecaster and it was so bright and twangy, I was afraid I was going to have to replace everything on the guitar just to tame that bright sound. It also seems like most Telecasters come with a maple fretboard. Now I prefer darker woods on mine, I just find them to be a little bit softer to play and a little bit darker sounding. And my last problem with Telecasters is the vintage bridge. You know, those 3-barrel saddles, you can't ever quite get it intonated. I just can't stand it. I've played on plenty of Teles and even owned one. I just figured they weren't for me. Still, every time I'd see one of my guitar heroes shredding away on a Tele, or I'd read in some online forum about how the Telecaster is the perfect and quintessential guitar, I just thought I had to have one. I thought the Tele that would be right for me would be really fussy. I mean, belly cut, contours, modern electronics, the whole works. It wasn't until I read a review of this exact model of guitar that I started to understand what a Telecaster is for. It's not supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to be just a couple pieces of wood slapped together, throw a couple pickups on, here you go, off to rock. Adding belly cuts and contouring and fancy electronics, I mean, that's just getting in the way of the sound of rock and roll. Which led me to this guitar. It's a Squier Affinity Telecaster in what they call slick silver. You can see it's really sparkly. Now what I like about this one is that it's got the Indian Laurel fretboard, no maple here, an unfinished maple neck so your thumb doesn't stick, and it has a modern bridge. No more 3 barrels to mess with. Now I have to admit, since I've embraced the Telecaster philosophy, this guitar has been the most fun I've had playing guitar in a very long time. I found myself jumping around my practice room banging out chords like I was a teenager again. Now, I'm not averse to buying and playing cheap guitars. I think they can play just as good as their more expensive counterparts. But I do have a few tips about hunting for cheap guitars in the wild. It's a good idea to get an inexpensive guitar as a project guitar. For me, I've got very little experience upgrading guitars. I wanted to look for a guitar with great bones that anything I upgraded would make a huge difference. Even with cheap guitars or project guitars, it's so important to find one that you love to play. This guitar in particular called out to me at the store. It was so much fun to play, it sounded great right off the wall. Even the fretwork is better than my Fender Made in Mexico Stratocaster. No sharp ends or anything. The stock pickups sound pretty good on their own. I really liked how they weren't as bright as other Telecaster pickups, which probably helped in me taking this one home. My biggest piece of advice for shopping for inexpensive guitars, if you play one at the store you like, take that exact one home. Inexpensive guitars, especially ones made in China like this one, can experience a myriad of quality assurance problems. I really like this finish, and I played this exact model of Telecaster at a different store and cut my finger open on the fret ends. This one, however, is comfortable and fun to play. The tuners, even though they're a little stiff, are stable, and this thing doesn't go out of tune very easily. Tuning stability, playability, and tone are all problems that you could pay a luthier 2 times, 3 times what the guitar is worth to fix. It's best to find a guitar with good bones that feels good and take that one home with you. Now, onto the upgrades. You've probably noticed I've already changed out the pickguard from the stock white one to a black one. I just got this one off of Amazon, I think it was $9. It doesn't fit exactly, but it fits close enough. And you know what? Jeff Buckley's Telecaster pickguard didn't fit and it was good enough for him. I decided to replace the stock pickups with the Fender Generation 4 Noiseless Telecaster set. I've got a similar set on my Stratocaster and they're great. As we can see from the back of the box, the little EQ spec that Fender put on there says that the bridge pickup might be a little bright. We'll have to see if it's too bright for me. The last upgrade I want to make is to the control panel. Now this one feels a little flimsy, almost like a toy, and even the input jack is a little dodgy. I've had my cable fall out a few times. I bought a pre-wired control plate from TW Loaded on Reverb. This one comes with 250K CTS pots, cloth wire, a pure tone multi-connect jack, and I even sprung for a treble bleed circuit. Now let me run through my setup and how I'm going to be doing this demo. I'm going to be playing through a Fender ToneMaster Deluxe Reverb. I'm recording the amp direct using the number 2 IR, which is based off of Royer 121 microphone. We'll go through all 3 positions on all the sounds from no gain to high gain. I'm going to use some pedal distortion through the Plumes overdrive from Earthquaker Devices, and this Dharma Initiative overdrive pedal, which is a redecorated, rehoused version of a popular overdrive pedal by a company who I shall not name. It should go without saying that I'm going to use the same settings on the amp and the pedals for both sets of pickups. Also, I've set my pickups up to the specs that Fender has on their website. They had slightly different heights for each of the regular single coils and the noiseless ones, so I just did whatever was on their website. Plugging my Deluxe into an HX Stomp where I've just got a little bit of room reverb going on, but mostly I'm using it as a recording interface. Let's see how it sounds. Okay, so what are my thoughts after the upgrade process? First of all, I want to say working on guitars can be a lot of fun if you know what you're doing. Unfortunately, that's not really me. Yet. A really important, ridiculous lesson that I learned is that the noiseless pickups I ordered, they don't screw into the Telecaster body like the vintage style ones, they screw into the pick guard. I tried to make my own holes in the pick guard but ended up just ordering another one from Amazon. And hey, they're so cheap you could have a different color pick guard for every day of the week if you wanted. Also, I learned that the routing inside the body for the pickup wires was a lot smaller than the pickups I ordered. The wires on the stock pickups were really thin, and there were extra wires with the noiseless pickups. I had to widen the routing on this guitar, which led to a few totally preventable, if you know what you're doing, dings on the body of the guitar. But what the hell, it's got character now. I can't say enough good stuff about the pre-wired control plate harness I got. The pots are smooth and heavy, the switch is built to last, and the input jack is ridiculously solid. The only problem I have with the input jack is the barrel is kind of long for this guitar, so I'm going to need to find some extra washers to make it not stick out so far. Overall though, the control plate was an easy drop-in replacement for the stock one, well worth its weight in gold. Now on to the most complicated part of this upgrade, the pickups. Now I really like these noiseless pickups from Fender. They're really warm and really articulate, especially on the high gain settings, which is no small feat. Throughout the demo process, I did feel like they were a little bit too bright for my taste, but I did learn that these Fender noiseless pickups are very sensitive to how far away they are from the strings. In fact, as soon as I put them in the guitar, before I took any measurements or anything, they sounded amazing. Not too harsh, not too bright, even a ton of output. It wasn't until I adjusted them to the Fender spec that they started to sound not quite what I was looking for. It's nice to know, even if it was an accident, that I can get a ton of different sounds out of these pickups. All I've got to do is move them around. That being said, I may make another video in the future once I get these pickups set up to the way that I like them to sound. Even though this bridge pickup is a really good replacement for the stock one, I may think about in the future replacing it with a Seymour Duncan Little 59 or a small humbucker. Of course, I'll make a video about that too. Final thoughts? I love this guitar. I was a bit sadder than I should have been when it was disassembled for the couple of days it took me to make these upgrades. I was so happy to have it put back together, and the upgrades were completely worth it. I'm just amazed at the vast array of sounds I can make with this guitar. So much more than any other Tele I've ever tried out. And it just feels really good to make customizations that you want to a guitar that you love, so it becomes even more a part of you. What's next for upgrades though? Definitely the tuners. I'm going to put in a new set of tuners, probably locking ones because, I mean, they're locking. It's nice. A lot of people replace the nut on these cheap Chinese guitars. I don't really have a problem with this one, but getting a Graphtec nut would definitely be an improvement. I also have some Graphtec saddles on my Strat that are a lot heavier and a lot more comfortable to play, so I may look into getting a set for this guitar too. I thought for a while about oiling and waxing the back of the neck, but the more I play this guitar, the smoother it gets. It's like it's literally conforming to my hands. What upgrades would you make to a guitar like this? Leave me a comment below and I'll look into making them in the future. Thanks for watching. Get out there and play a Squier Affinity, you might be surprised.